Alright guys, Mouse here again. So it's finally time to talk about the new water weapon, Allon's Orb. So I've already tested almost every part of this weapon to check how it works and where the damage comes from. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the results, including some of the damage tests I did, and give you, of course, my take on how it compares with other choices. Also, where to use this weapon specifically and how I think it will affect the meta. And hopefully this video can help you decide whether to pull for it or not. Before we begin though, just a quick reminder, I already sent the new code to supporters that contains 500k gold in gate keys, though we have a bit of a problem because one of the mission submissions got rejected and I'm not sure why, but I already did send a customer support and appeal for rechecking and reconsideration. Hopefully they would accept it because this one will give us 30 traces of shadow and 50 advanced mana crystals. So sorry for the delay and thanks again for all your support. So Allon's Orb has a base passive that gives 0.5% precision for every 20 intelligence, and this is up to a maximum of 5%. That means we need 200 intelligence to max it out. So technically this is similar to what we get from the Stormbringer, but here's the important part that you should know about it. I actually only noticed this with the Stormbringer very recently. These types of precision percent apparently actually lets you go beyond the normal 99% precision limit. So from my tests with a max precision build but without enough intelligence to activate the passive yet, my damage still had slight variance. I was getting 163.9k, 162.9k, 162.6 and 163.1. After adding intelligence to activate the precision percent effect, even with less precision from stats here, all the hits came out at exactly the same damage. So this confirms that you can actually only reach 99% with precision stats alone, but 100% is possible when precision passives like this are added on top of that. So if you want to know the exact precision you need for each content when using this weapon, you can just use BRR's SLA formulary. So here, since we're getting 5% from the weapon, you can set the target precision in the calculator to 95%. For example, if you want to optimize for power of destruction, which is level 100, just plug that in and you'll get 21,021 precision needed. Now, what does it mean for the meta currently? I think we are at the point where the devs are giving us passive precision sources because monster levels are actually getting too high right now and they probably don't want us to put a crazy number of points on precision stats, so we can probably expect more of these kinds of weapons soon, probably even buffs from units or even shadow authority or shadow skills in the near future. So next up is the Rolling Tide buff, which is the core buff of this weapon. It increases the damage dealt and water damage by 10% for 20 seconds, meaning it's likely going to be a permanent buff in actual combat. And it's going to be a 20% at A3. So I also did some tests here and I have confirmed that this water damage here is just the typical elemental damage that's additive to the natural elemental weakness, usually at 50%, and most other elemental damage increase sources, including weakness detection, artifact stats, and artifact effects. And for the increased damage dealt part, I also confirmed that it is a damage increase type similar to the Obsidian set. So you will see diminishing returns if you already have lots of damage increase from buffs, from the artifacts, as well as from your own passives. It's still a pretty decent boost, but just don't expect it to directly translate into a final damage output. Now, another important and shocking find actually is the Maelstrom debuff. So the description says here that it increases water damage taken, which usually means it is multiplicative with other multipliers. But in my tests, I only got around 5% actual damage increase from the supposed 8%. And upon further checking, I confirmed that it's actually additive to water elemental damage increase, which is why the yield is reduced. So the first time we encountered this type of treatment was with Shuho's passive debuff, Tension Drop. This one also says increased water damage taken, but works like a water elemental damage increase. Take note, in general, those two are different, but we're seeing more and more inconsistencies when it comes to these kinds of description. To confirm this further, I stacked it with Grimm's 24% elemental damage taken, and I still got exactly 24% from it. Usually, if we stack Cream, for example, with Suyun's debuff, we would see diminishing returns because both of them are elemental damage taken. But in the case of Allon's Orb, we did not see that. So this means even if we get 4 stacks at A3 for a total of 32% increased water damage taken, it will not be as broken as you might expect, especially if you already have high water elemental damage increase from various sources. For example, Water Cha will get a crazy amount from Zorin's A4 in a Water Guild Boss lineup. On top of that, we get more from the Desire set and Sylph's Blessings, and of course the Natural Weakness, which is already at 50% by default. Overall, this is still a very good debuff though. The only issue here is that it's just different from what we expect and just not as broken as it may seem. Next, I also looked at the Lunar Drift buff, comparing 199 intelligence to 200 intelligence, which activates the passives and gives 20% damage plus another 1% from the every 10 int condition. And from the results, I only got a 12.4% actual damage output increase, and this suggests and shows that it's also an elemental damage increase type of multiplier, which is already expected. I just checked it because we can't be too sure with that Marvel really. Anyway, that means there will be diminishing returns too if you're already stacking elemental damage increase multipliers. So the only thing that I want to really share with you guys here and help you guys understand that all of these numbers might look like a lot, like 40%, 20% from this, 40% from this, but in terms of its overall damage contribution, it will not be something like an immediate final damage output. Okay, so just take note of that. Now for this part where it says it increases the damage of water weapon skills, the base effect is a 30% boost, which I've confirmed right here. And when I added the boss layer with 29% skill damage type of multiplier, I only got 22.3% increase. And from here, we can see that it is also a skill damage type multiplier and is most likely additive with other things like Infamy set and probably the Silver Mark stacks of the Winter Fang, if I remember correctly from the test I did a few months ago. Again, in this part, 30%, 60% at A5, don't expect a pure solid 30% boost if you're already stacking skill damage, and Winter Fang already has that built in. And speaking of A5, the effect here is really important, I feel, because of the 10% crit rate. This is especially big for high level content like POD hard mode, Proof of the Strong, and also Architect's Trial. I did not test the Rising Tide anymore, but I think it's fair to assume that it's just going to be the same as the Lunar Drift with higher values. The 5% precision alone is already good in my opinion because it allows us to reallocate precision stats into strength for more attack, and it also lets us reach through 100% precision. And everything else down here does look like it's going to be a major upgrade to the water DPS department. But of course, actual combat might turn out different, so I'll just cover POD and Guild Boss when Water Element Week comes around. But just to give you a quick idea of its impact, I also tested it in the workshop. So first, I tested an A7 Kasaka dagger, which resulted in 4.1, and 7.4 damage per hit of Winter Fang. And the Flowing Water Kick dealt about 105 million with everything crit. Now with an A6 orb, Winter Fang did 6.6, 6.6, and 11. Flowing Water Kick did 139 million. Insane damage output increase. And finally, with an A10 Plum Sword with max stacks in dash, Winter Fang got 4.6 with dash, 3.29 without dash, and if I dash for the last nuke, that is 8.3 million per hit. It's very far from the damage output contribution of the A6 orb. Flowing Water Kick with dash dealt 145 million, which is a bit higher than the orb, but take note the orb was only A6 and my Plum Sword is A10. So I think it's pretty obvious when it comes to what it offers to the team. I believe Orb plus Winter Fang is a far better option in most situations, especially in teamfight content where it not only gives self buffs to increase the damage of Jinwoo, but also provides a debuff for the whole team to benefit from. Again though, this is just early testing. In actual combat in POD or guild boss might differ due to varying elemental damage buffs and crit rate on monsters, so we'll just check all of those later on. And another possible option we're seeing is of course using Grimm plus Orb in a support Jinwoo setup. Though I honestly don't think it's going to be much different from Stormbringer in the Ant Queen. It will probably be better of course, but whether it's going to be a massive improvement or not is something that we still need to check. Now for the advancement, I would say the minimum you should aim for is A3, mainly for the 4-stack debuff and faster stacking, which I believe will help a lot in both SJW and teamfight content. But should you get this if you don't have Winter Fang, I probably would not recommend it. Should you still get it for workshop? I think the current wind method with Stormbringer is more than enough, even for proof the strong level 20. I believe most people have that already, and if your resources are limited, as I always advise, if it's not necessary and you can finish the game content just fine, no need to waste your resources. But of course, that will always depend on your priority game content. So still right now, the way I see it, this is probably going to be the meta in POD hard mode. It will definitely break the hands faster, but I do want to see how better it is compared to current existing options. But for guild boss though, I think it's still up for testing whether a DPS Jinwoo can now lead to higher scores than the usual support build we're doing, because remember, we also now have this crazy skill water flowing kick with crazy damage, so that could change a lot of things too. So yeah, that's it for the Allon's Orb based on my test and my early impression. If this breakdown helped you and you like it, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more videos like this so that you won't miss out on updates whenever we discover something new, especially with regards to this weapon. See you on the next one.